go.
We are live here in good old Annapolis, Maryland, where we are broadcasting our grit grown here because character matters. It's our podcast that we do once a week. We come on roughly about 6:45 every week. Sometimes when there's technical difficulties, we'll run a little late, like tonight. We had a few
Yeah,
minor technical difficulties, but we're back and we're doing it all for everyone.
we're good. We're live.
Yes, so right now we're going to
Hey, Jeff.
introduce who we have with us tonight because we're missing Rob. And Rob is a very important part of our operation here, and we miss him. He was going to call in, but not tonight. Okay, so first we have Jessica and Gordon. They're from Baltimore Highlands. And then we have Jim from Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, where
Hello.
his wife, who usually joins him, is off doing frivolous things, right, Jim?
Yes, she's starting. It's her opening night in a play.
Ah, well, that's not too frivolous. That's a real
No,
important thing.
she's excited.
Yeah, that's great. But we're glad you're with us, Jim.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry that you're missing her grand opening tonight.
It's okay.
Okay. So now that we've introduced everybody that's here so far, we'll ask about grit growing events. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad, sometimes they're just, it's just what happened, but it's interesting. So, does anybody have a grit growing event for this week? Jim, you want to start off?
Well, sure. My grandson, who's 4 years old, he's autistic and he's not very verbal at all. He won't carry on a conversation with you, certainly. But my daughter had him at work this week, and she turned to do something, and the phone rang, and all of a sudden she heard, "Hello, how can I help you?" It was my grandson on the phone entertaining a customer.
Very
And
good.
that is phenomenal.
Nice.
Absolutely phenomenal. That's great. Well, I have a joke about that if you want to hear one a little later.
Okay,
Gordon,
okay.
yes, I've got it. I may tell it tonight. Gordon, do you have any event that you would like to share with us?
Well, I guess I could share this real quick. Was looking and browsing last night and came across this little post with a little video on it from this organization, probably some think tank or whatever. But that part aside, it was a nice little video about the 250th, and some different scenes like Martin Luther King and Statue of Liberty and all this kind of stuff. And what caught me was the end, right? Because basically, the video is talking to how I mean, obviously we got a lot of problems around here, right, in the United States and in the world in general. But what caught me was the best is yet to come.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this thing can be turned around.
Yes, it absolutely can.
So
That is a very good one. I like that. And Jess,
Beautiful.
how about you?
One sec. Gordon, can you fix that camera so it doesn't get my butt in the picture?
the
Okay.
what?
Well, just go ahead and start talking because we're live,
Yeah, we're
Okay.
live.
not Memorex. Okay, just go. Just go. All right.
All right, just go. Well, I would say I've got some grit growing ones. Because I'm doing physical therapy right now. So,
Okay.
every Tuesday and Thursday. So, in the pool, which is kind of nice, but it's definitely can be challenging because it's a lot of hard work. But it's fun. So, I'm looking forward to having more strength and balance in my legs.
Sounds fantastic. That's a good
Good for
one.
you, Jess. Good for you.
Yeah. And so,
Bring
go ahead, Jim.
bringing the diving duck back.
Oh, that's because she was in the pool.
She's in the
Thank you,
pool. That's right.
thank you, Jim. That's
You're
you are
welcome.
our man there. That is really wonderful. Okay, so this week, um, I am a chief judge in our precinct for running elections, and so I am the other than Democrat judge, and it's a long day, and people really don't have any kind of concept what it takes. I got up at 4:30 in the morning. I was at the precinct at 5:30 in the morning. I let the other judges in at 5:45 in the morning. At 7 o'clock, we started with the voting. We had such a low turnout. 10% of the people registered to vote came out. That was sad.
Wow.
Yes. And so we worked all day long because you're not allowed to leave the poll. And so you have to bring your own food and bring your own drinks and all that. But we all got along very, very well. That was really wonderful. We closed the poll at 8 o'clock. And with sheer efficiency, all the poll workers were out at 9 o'clock. I got out at 9:20 and proceeded to hit a construction backup that delayed me for more than half an hour.
Oh my.
Me
Oh
and
my.
the other chief judge with me, we sat in the car and waited and waited and waited. And then we had to drive for a half an hour to get up to our drop spot. Then we had to wait in line to be able to get our car unloaded with all the memory sticks and the poll books and the stuff that they're worried that anybody else might have in their possession. And the interesting thing is they never ask for blank ballots. I find that very interesting. But
Oh,
well, they never do. But we put them in a case and we lock them. And we put them in a bigger rolling cabinet and we lock that. And then the school gets locked as we get out of there. We hope. So, and then I had to drive back to the precinct so I could get my other chief judge in his car. And from there, I had to drive home through the construction again. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was
great day,
11
Dave.
o'clock when I got home.
Oh,
It was a long day. My wife wanted to
oh,
talk to me about how did your day go? Yeah, okay. You want to show Jim's duck? He's changed us out again.
that's right. Dave
Oh
becomes an angel.
no, no, no! You got the wrong duck there. Anyway,
Okay.
anyway, it's a very long day, but the reason that I do it is I do it because I think we have to show civic pride. We're here at our 250th anniversary of our country, and you have to start talking about why only 10%. What's going on that the electorate doesn't trust the election system?
Hmm.
And statewide, I think we were at 11%.
Wow.
So it was pretty sad numbers. I think they were talking about 326,000 people did not turn out this primary compared to the last one, and that's pretty
Okay.
significant. It's really
Yes, it
good.
is.
So anyway, that's neither a happy one or a sad one. It's just a one, because we've got our 250th anniversary, and our country is worth saving. So step up. If you hear us, step up. And go down to DC and enjoy some of the beautiful things that are on the mall this 4th of July. They've got like a state fair set up all along the tidal basin all the way down to the Capitol from the Lincoln Memorial. And the fireworks this year, I understand, are going to be spectacular. And so
Hmm.
if you get a chance to go see them, I think it's worth your time. Okay, so moving on with our clock engaged.
Yep,
Uh,
it was.
is it plugged in on the other end? Okay, well, it's a minor detail. So last week we were talking about
There's your problem.
words of death, and we were trying
Yes.
to figure out how words and expressions end up affecting us in our day-to-day life, or even if the words were spoken when we were young, how does it translate into our present lives every day? What do you bring into a relationship from how you were brought up when you were young? And it was a very lively discussion, and I think that probably one of our better podcasts because everybody sort of talked from the heart. what was going on in their lives and their experience. And so today we're going to continue along that line with what is the effect of the words and the wounds that happen in your life, sometimes immediate, sometimes in years to come. So I'm gonna ask Jim if you have any specific questions that you would like to ask. I've written some down here, but would you like to
Okay.
expand on just the topic first, and then
Sure.
maybe we'll answer the questions?
Sure. Well, like your traffic problem getting home, I think a number of people in our world get sidelined from a happy life by traumatic events. Some things that are expected, like being in battle, some things that are not expected, like abuse at home or sexual abuse at a very young age or any kind of sexual abuse. Um, and sometimes things happen to us in our life where people we expect to support us or we want to support us, who we hope will support us, abandon us.
Yeah, they don't do it.
In fact, throw us under the bus, if you will. And it's very hard. It's almost impossible to understand if you can't communicate through it. But what I wanted to talk about a little bit and maybe give some examples and get some examples from you guys is kind of an emotional incarceration that some people experience. And I didn't come up with that term. That was coined by Jeanette Shield. She's a master and worked with um, uh, ATF and other kinds of government organizations and worked a lot with people who've been incarcerated. Um, Emotional incarceration is very common amongst us, and it's hard to detect sometimes because um, we assign labels to people based on what we think they're thinking, how they're looking, the way they react, um, what it seems they think of us, and we fill in the blanks when we don't understand.
Yes, we read into things that may not be there.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And these kinds of things can really harm others because sometimes we join with other people, as in the spewing of death when gossip, in labeling people and harming them thereby.
Yeah.
Um, what what some people get involved in or end up suffering is a worldview that they are in constant danger,
Hmm.
that they can't be trusting anybody else. They can barely trust their own emotions because they feel so hurt and afraid sometimes, or just plain angry, and get stuck, get stuck in this world where they're hyper vigilant, um, looking over their shoulders, wondering why people don't love them, seeing uh, bad consequences when they're not necessarily there,
Yeah.
interpreting life their own way as a continuation of the tragedy they've experienced so far. Kind of like looking at life as a set of unwritten rules that they can't quite figure out.
Yeah.
And why was I left behind?
Yeah.
Why wasn't I included in this?
Hmm.
Why won't people understand me? Why can't I talk about this? And sometimes it's just plain fear of talking about what they're experiencing. And we all like people to stand up and pull themselves up by the bootstraps and be good, strong citizens and all, and that's extremely important. And we must all carry on. Um, we can't. We have to survive whatever storm we're in,
Yeah.
and help those we love survive the storms. But when you have fundamental trust issues torn away, when you have trust of people that you're supposed to be able to trust torn away, it seems like the hurt escalates through time and almost like we become self-protective habitually.
Yes. Yes.
And as a result, we end up doing some things that can be very dangerous and upsetting to others as well.
Well, this week I've been at a conference with law enforcement and FBI and ATF and some of the other three letter agencies that have to deal with Homeland Security. one of the vignettes that was presented by a representative from Scotland Yard was a young girl who was slightly autistic, but still autistic, and her mother ends up remarrying somebody that came from a different country than they live in. And the guy just seemed to love on this daughter the whole time. They spent a lot of time together up in her room talking, nothing hanky panky, just talking and doing and being together out on the street. And the mother was feeling tremendous that this guy takes on a handicapped daughter and is really pouring into her. So, of course, the rest of the story is he's grooming her.
Mm-hmm.
He's grooming her to be a terrorist.
Oh my.
Oh my. And she ends up carrying a bomb that she was supposed to set off in her school, but she was struggling with it so that she took it to where her stepdad was having coffee with his friends. And stepdad is all upset and, what are you doing here? You're not supposed to be here, blah, 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 blah. And the daughter ends up going home and killing herself at 14 years old.
Oh
And the
my.
mother doesn't know anything about what's happening, nothing whatsoever. And she's like, how did this happen to my child? She seemed so normal. She seemed so happy. She never discussed things with her mother that were bothering her on the inside. And thank goodness she knew not to go into the school and blow up the kids. But her only way out, from her point of view, was to kill herself. And it was very, very sad. Very, very sad. And we saw a bunch of video footage of the mom talking to officers. And, once they started investigating the dad, they ended up figuring out who he really was. And, a major disaster got averted because someone's conscience got in their way. And we're happy for that, but we're sad for the loss of life.
Oh my.
And I can't tell you the number of events like that are happening all around the world. And she presented this video to us that went through a history of terrorism in just Great Britain. And 2005, 2006, 2007, I mean, just all the way through every year. And it was getting to where it wasn't just one a year. Now it's 2, now it's 3, now it's more. And that is so humbling to sit there and listen to this. It was really, really quite interesting. And so I started asking questions about, well, why is this happening more? Why didn't this happen at 1900 when people came from all over the world and settled in all kinds of countries? Because we had a great big immigration flock back then. And she was like, we don't know. And I said, somebody's got to study society. Somebody's got to look at what the circumstances were back in 1900 and compare it to 2026. And she said, I agree with you. And she says, but how do we implement it? I said, that's where the politicians have to go to the school system and say, there are skills we need you to teach our children so that they can be good life citizens. But she said, the political people will not do it. So I'm sorry I interrupted you, Jim, but...
No, you didn't. And that's almost like a suicide pact for the whole nation.
Well, yeah.
It's bizarre how we've gotten to that point where we want to destroy what we have.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, and that's happening in D.C. right now with Trump doing the reflecting pond right in front of the Lincoln Memorial. And we have people going and dumping algae in the reflecting pond. And you're like, what's wrong with you people? What's wrong with having something good? And then they're scratching the rubberized paint that's on the bottom of the reflecting pond so that it's starting to peel up. And now we're going to have to spend money as a nation. We already spent 14 million. What are we going to have to spend to repair it? And it's all because people wanting to do damage to make their political point. And what is that? Why do we, how damaged are they, Jim, to have to act out negatively to try to get their point made?
Well,
Well, anarchists have been messing with society forever,
well,
and
I can
allegedly,
talk to that.
allegedly, an anarchist helped start World War I. In fact,
Yes.
by killing Archduke Ferdinand. But go ahead, Jess.
Yeah, I can kind of go with that because one of the things I learned that one of the either when I was inpatient at Shepherd Pratt or one of the times I was partial hospital was that people have like an emotional bank account, and that a lot of people like people who feel bad about themselves usually like to bring, not saying everybody, but a lot of people who feel bad about themselves like to bring other people down who don't like themselves. And so one of the things that happens is they destroy, you know, say, the reflecting pool. They destroy each other. They say things to people to hurt them and
Deface monuments and
deface monuments because they don't like who they are, and
Yeah.
and so they lash out. And
Well, and so here we are, we're good. We're identifying the problem, but how do we get beyond it? How do we help make people whole, to get them to realize that maybe this isn't the right way to do it? And Jim, I think you had one of those questions written down on your sheet about assessments. What did you have?
What was the question, Dave? I don't have it with
Well,
me.
the question is, okay, we're identifying problems, and we're very good at identifying problems, but
Hmm.
how do we get to solutions?
Mm.
And so, where Jess was saying very accurately, some people don't like themselves, or they've been so
Right.
wounded that they're willing to be destructive to make themselves feel better.
Oh, I think you can see this playing out all over the place. When I work with couples that are destructive with each other, um, you see, one makes a move toward peace and reconciliation and love, and there'll be sabotage. And the sabotage doesn't come from the moment that all this is coming down. It comes from much deeper roots. Like, we can't let anything succeed here.
Yeah.
And very often it's an unconscious drive to not let something succeed. Like you were saying, there's something wrong inside. We have to tear down everything. It doesn't satisfy. It doesn't ever satisfy. It only destroys. And the seeds of destruction are planted years and years before, like the example you were giving, Dave.
Yeah. So, how do we get past it? How do we get a chance to look at ourselves?
Well, people say put them in therapy. Reality is going to give someone therapy real quick.
Yeah.
Sometimes people end up being shot dead for this kind of thing. Um, Suicide, like you mentioned. Um, if
But
they're
how can we help people honestly assess the depth of their wounds or the damage that's happened in their lives? How do we
well,
do that?
thank you. I think really we start with symptoms, and people hopefully we hope and pray that people have people around them who'll be honest about their symptoms, about what's going on, and helping them realize that this is not usual for folks. And we would like to get you some help to find out what's going on inside. And very often there are roadblocks so strong and so deep that there'll be attempts to escape, to get away from any kind of help. You'll see this in locked wards sometimes, psychiatric wards. People like Jess was talking about sabotaging the process. Um, Anything to break free of scrutiny, but people who are cared for enough and loved enough and understood enough and followed closely enough uh, can possibly dig into the roots of this and be freed from the trap, recognizing that their intimacy has been destroyed
Hmm.
by a latent charge, a latent bomb, if you will, planted by someone or some situation or some evolution that told them they were no good.
Okay, so are you saying that they need to figure out exactly how and where they were damaged in the past so that
I
they
think
can confront these
I think
these
they have to
wounds?
understand that it's not entirely all their own doing.
Yes, I agree with that.
It's certainly it evolved with their actions, and we hold people accountable, and they go to jail and all the rest for their actions, and it needs to be that way. But and communication breaks down all over the place. I don't know if you know about social emotional learning in schools, but one model comes in and assesses all the students and identifies them as being one of three categories: either a green, they're good to go socially, or a yellow, this one's a caution, or a red, this one needs to be stopped. And it goes in their permanent record and it follows them throughout school.
Okay.
And they are given instruction and special training, if you will, classes, counseling, whatever, to address these issues. But the stigma does not go away.
Wow.
Oh
Um,
my goodness.
we stigmatize ourselves too.
Yeah.
I,
Well, with
I
the
can't
stories we tell ourselves, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And when things aren't going well with other people or even in our own lives, it's not unusual to hear someone very close to you, my own wife, I I I must have a demon. There's something going wrong here. I can't do anything right. Nobody loves me, whatever, And these kinds of things we tell ourselves become even more destructive. These issues, these thoughts, these beliefs, these patterns can be studied and can be very carefully addressed. And people can be given oxygen to breathe again.
Yeah. So, where does it play with our political leaders in trying to help solve? I think this is a societal problem. This isn't just an individual problem. And I think that we're training kids from the time they are little to almost have these problems.
Well,
Because
I
as we
agree, Dave.
discussed last week, we discussed the words of death, the words that
Yes.
hurt, the words that stick with you, that says you're no good, that says you don't know how to do anything, that says, you're a terror on 2 feet. When they're
And
two
I don't
years old,
know.
they usually are.
Yeah.
I don't know how you were brought up, Dave, but I suppose it was very similar to my upbringing. We were taught to be patriotic. We
Yes.
were taught to
Yes.
pray. We
Yep.
were taught
Yes.
to be kind to other people. We gave to UNICEF.
Yep.
We believed in helping each other and bringing each other through. That doesn't mean we didn't gossip and fool around and carry on, but ultimately we believed in a community of people, our community of faith as well, a community of people that were going to be there for each other. And we could turn to our institutions, we could turn to our authorities, and certainly our teachers, educators, and ministers.
Yep.
But I think what we've experienced in society, and correct me if you think I'm wrong, what we've experienced in society in the last half century at least is an erosion of that and a schema of we are no good
Yeah.
and you are no good, and we have to distrust each other and we have to sabotage each other because we can't trust each other. And
So
I don't
you're
know how
saying
this got started.
over time,
Mm-hmm.
we
It's,
we're the seeds have grown. I guess the
they
seeds of
have.
discontent.
We've taken prayer out of the schools. We've taken civics out of the schools. We've told kids they can change their gender on a dime. In fact, they should if they like sports that are different from their own gender sports. We've taken away the emotional and spiritual supports that you and I were brought up with,
Yeah.
and we've left kids literally at sea without a paddle, without a lifeboard, without anything to swim with, and we've expected them to act right, and they often don't.
Yeah.
I think one of the things I've noticed is like, even, when I was growing up, we no one in our family talked about emotions. I mean, my dad wanted to, but nobody else would do it. I wanted to, but nobody else wanted to talk about emotions. Everyone just wanted to keep to themselves. And a lot of times that causes more problems than good when we're holding everything in. Because then, you lash out. Or, like, I think part of the problem is, people aren't being taught how to talk about their emotions and how they feel. I mean, even though you're a girl might say, "Oh, I feel like a boy. Let me be a boy today." But that just because they're saying that doesn't mean that's how
That's
they.
a real emotion. Yeah.
That's a real emotion. Like, how do they really feel? Like, it's deeper than that. Like, how are they being treated at home? Like, one of my friends said one of their things they've noticed with some of their friends that are in the LGB, I can never say it right.
Well, that's okay. We got it.
But yeah, says that a lot of one of the things she's noticed that a lot of her friends that are in that group have been sexually abused somehow.
Yeah. But also, I
Makes,
can tell you one of my sisters was really a tomboy when she was young. And we just loved her. She was just who she was. And there was no there was no discussion about is she really a boy or a girl. We knew she was a girl. And then when the change of life starts happening for her, all of a sudden she realizes she's a girl. And
Bingo.
yeah, bingo. And real life starts hitting her right there in the head, And so she liked boys just as much as my other sister, and she gets married and has 3 kids herself, And yet she's one of the hardest workers I know. She's got a really good work ethic. She's got a really good honest streak in her that, you just don't have to question that about her. And she will give the shirt off of her back. And, she's up putting roof shingles down with my brother-in-law. And I'm like,
wow.
What the heck are you doing, Beth? I can do it. Well, God love you. She's like the prairie girls from when we settled the West.
There you
They went out
go.
there and they worked and they did whatever it took to keep a family together, to make a home. And you just have to respect people like that.
yeah.
Doesn't
Had
make her-
11 children.
Yeah, well, my mother had 9, so we were close.
Woohoo!
Yeah,
Here we go.
woohoo, yeah. So, so we're talking about an honest assessment, but yet doesn't it sometimes feel like things are missing, Jim? Is there something else besides an honest assessment that they need to gravitate towards?
Well, I do think so. And they need something to gravitate toward. I mean, we have Jesus and the Holy Spirit. We have people around us in this community that care about us. But sometimes people have no one to nurture them. In fact, they're more than willing to label them and leave them alone, to suffer, to isolate. And that alone can be so damaging, self-reinforcing about I'm no good, that it can really lead to problems. But we need people and institutions to care
Yes.
about learning what people actually need. And I've got a high horse to get on, but I don't know if this is the time to do it. I'll just make something very brief. At least in our area, if you need to see a counselor, a psychiatrist, or a psychologist, you may have a 4-month wait.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
And the pastors are up to their ears in issues that they can't handle, and they need help too.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of bleeding going on, if you will, in our society. And the institutions that we've created, insurance companies, the institutions we've created, hospitals and doctors, the institutions we've created, the American Psychiatric and Psychological Associations, have put up so many barriers to people helping each other. You can't even help a kid across the street without having an investigation of your life.
Oh my goodness.
But Jim, you did mention Jesus and God, and it seems to me that I've heard that's all a hoax. That it's it's hocus pocus, and nothing. You can pray to somebody out there, but it doesn't mean anything to anybody. What do you say about that?
Personally, I think that's giving up on life. I think that's giving up on other people. I think it's giving up on yourself.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you're just spreading more fear, more hate and distance between people. And I think we do know, and I will say this, I think one of the highest forms of not just intelligence, but human evolution is empathy.
Yeah.
And without it, we can't exist and we will self-destruct.
Yeah.
And empathy is something that I know Christ preached.
Yes, he
You
did.
gotta love your neighbor.
Yeah.
And without
Sermon on
that,
the Mount, that pretty much talks about empathy.
without that, we don't get love back.
Yeah. Hmm.
And I think that's extremely important to establish from the gate.
So, in other words, what you're saying is that without empathy, it's hard for other people to trust you because they don't know what
Absolutely.
you're going to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And our society has taught to fear each other. We really have. I went to pick up my grandson from school yesterday, and it was the first time that I'd done it. Usually it's his mother or his grandmother. I'm on the list. Oh boy, they gave me the third degree going in there.
Mhm.
They said, "What is your name?" I said, James Davison, and it's on my license. And she says, we have Jim Davison here on our roster.
Jim, James, hello, common sense?
Well, it didn't matter. There was a caution there.
Yeah.
They are so afraid,
afraid, right?
so
Right. The
afraid.
common sense goes out the window.
We lock our kids down. They can't explore. They can't be themselves. They can't evolve the way we need them to. Yeah. We've created such an atmosphere of fear and distrust.
Yeah. Well, Gordon, Jess, and I have been down to the Dominican Republic, and we've done a little bit of mission work in a little town called Pimentel, Dominican Republic, which is in the middle of nowhere, and it's hot as you can imagine in the summer. And we actually have witnessed things that just can't be explained, but we call them miracles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember any in particular?
Well, the one that comes to mind as you say that is one night we're out to do like a crusade in the middle of the town,
Yeah.
right? And the weather there was okay, you know, and we head back to where we're staying at the school, and and some of them didn't make it out there. That was some people were at the school were going to come out there with us and everything. They didn't make it. It's like they couldn't make it out there because it was pouring down rain.
Yes, but I think you miss a little tiny bit of that point. And that was Randy. Do you remember Randy? Randy
Yeah.
Smith,
Right.
I think he was.
I remember.
And we had those storms all around us, though.
Right.
Yeah, they were all around us. And the equipment in the Dominican Republic was such that it's not like electrical service here in the United States.
No.
That as the moisture content was getting heavy, we would see psh, 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 little sparks flying here and there. And Randy, he was about 14 years old, maybe 15,
Sounds about right. Yeah.
somewhere around there. He raises his hand up to the sky and he says, "In the name of Jesus Christ, Son of God, Savior, I command the clouds to part around us so that we can finish our crusade."
It stopped raining.
And it stopped raining.
Oh my.
And we packed everything up and we started our walk back to the compound where we were staying. And the sky opened up and thoroughly drenched us.
Right.
Thoroughly drenched us. We were drenched so deeply that as the girls were getting back to the compound, they went in and they got shampoo, and they went outside and they shampooed their hair because we had very limited water there. And their hair was absolutely beautiful the next day, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Water pressure, yeah.
Rainwater, yeah.
But you say, that didn't really happen. There were 40 people that observed this.
Yeah.
At least.
And we're all in like total amazement. Randy lifted his hands to the sky He commanded the skies in the name of Christ. And that was just so unbelievable to me. I was like, oh, me of little faith,
Oh, wow.
you know? And Pastor Radameus was the man we went down to help. And he was telling us that there was a particular street in their town that had bars and adult entertainment and gambling, yeah, and stuff like that. And so he got his church up one Sunday, and they all walked down to that block, and they walked completely around the block, praying that God would get rid of all of these businesses. And inside of 2 years, they were all gone.
Oh, wow.
All gone. And what caused that? And some of those businesses have been there for years. So it's just, we don't even understand the spiritual side of life. You know, we think that we die and it's it. And yet, everything that has been talked about over the centuries, century after century after century, is about the afterlife. It's about going and spending your life in unison with the Holy Spirit. And it's like, wow, how do we get there? How do we facilitate that so that my family can be there and your family can be there and all our families can be there with us? It's a burden on some people that really pray that day after day after day. And they don't see that their prayers are being answered. But
miracles do happen.
miracles.
And you saw one.
Oh, we saw more than one there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the more we're involved in reaching out and listening to people, the more miracles we will see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even the ones we can't stand.
Yeah. But the book that I enjoyed so much 10 years ago or so, it was called The Shack. And
Yes.
it was not a religious book, but it was written about how one man has a view of God. And he tells a very interesting story about a human actually end up interfacing one-on-one with God in a form that a man can understand. And they even said in the book that when Jesus was talking to him, he said, look, we're here to help you understand and believe. But wow, it was a powerful book because, yes. I mean, he basically said, I knew you when you were in your mother's womb being knitted together. You know, who knew you back then? And it's a great book. If anybody wants to find out about William Paul Young and this book, it was a miracle how the book even came to be published. And that miracle was that no publisher, whether it was a religious publisher or a secular publisher, would publish the book. And so Paul got his friends together, and they decided they would buy 20,000 copies. Wow. And so they buy 20,000 copies, and he starts running it around to bookstores near him. And then he finds out, no, that's not how it works. We did not just take books off the street. Forget it. And so Paul is thinking, oh, my God, I am stuck with 20,000 books. How will I ever get rid of them? And so they started doing a little advertising on the web, and next thing you know, one or two books is flying off the shelf. Flying. And, you know, months go by. Paul has stopped even checking because the books are at his friend's garage, and his friend is doing the mail-outs. And he's not paying attention to anything. No bank accounts, no nothing. And all of a sudden, Rick Warren, out of the South, calls him up and says, I need 1,500 copies. And he's like, wow, 1,500 copies. This is great. And he calls up his buddy and he says, I need 1,500 copies to go down to Rick Warren. And his buddy said, well, then you better get a reprint. What did you do with the 20,000 copies? Did you throw them away? And his friend said, no, I've been mailing them out like you asked me to. You mean you've mailed out? Yeah. And so it turns out that in order for a book to be on the New York Times bestseller, it has to sell 10 to 12,000 copies, I think it is, 12,000. Nationwide, 12,000.
Wow.
We're in
Wow.
a population of 350 million people, and you only have to get 12,000 copies to be a New York Times special book. So,
Wow.
How
anyway,
about it?
so they end up filling the order, ordering some more books. Before you know it, they're flying off the shelves. They do another order. And there's even issues with the orders, but it's too deep to go into right now. But the last time I bought one of his books to give away to a friend of mine, it said on the front, 17 million copies sold.
Wow.
Million
Wow.
copies. And
Wow.
they didn't split it with any publishing house or any bookstore.
Wow.
They did it
Wow.
all by themselves. So, I mean, talk about a miracle. I mean,
That's a miracle.
it is not that he was trying to preach any kind of religious point of view. He was just talking about how he intersects with God and what it looks like to him.
Yeah.
And it was a great point of view. So I'm sorry.
Great,
I've
great
I've had
story.
a little bit of diarrhea of the mouth, I guess. I'm sorry.
No, that was a great story of real inspiration. Thank you.
But it is a
Really,
miracle.
Mm-hmm.
it gives us hope.
Yes, absolutely. And it
Hope that we
also,
can reach out.
yes, but it also should be helpful to the people who are suffering with these wounds in their life to see that this guy was feeling pretty wounded when they had 20,000 copies and no way to get rid of them. You know, I
Right.
mean, talk about being deeply wounded after you put a whole bunch of your time into it. He said most of the pages in the book were exactly how he wrote them every day on the way to and the way back from work. He had a 1 hour ride on a train to get to and
Wow.
from work each day. So it's 2 hours a day he worked on it. So the guy's amazing, really amazing. So how do we decide if these words and these events in life are distancing us from God? So that question is kind of a two-sided question. If you believe in God, how's it affecting you? But the other side, if you don't believe in God, are you ever going to?
Well, I can go for that one. Because like, I mean, yeah, I grew up believing in God my entire life, but those words still hurt. That stuff that I abused through my sister still carried on into adulthood.
Yeah.
I mean, she still says things to me. Well, right when she's talking to me. Right now she's not talking to me, but like constantly putting me down, and nothing was ever good enough. And for like the longest time, I remember setting up at Matt's house, and I'd be like, "Okay, Martin, is this right? Does this look right? Does this look good? Did I do this the right way?" When we're setting up, I know it drove him crazy and drove me crazy asking, but I didn't know any other way to do it because that's how that's what I was used to. Couldn't do it right. You couldn't do things on my own. And, over the year, the past, 19 years or so, about the last 19 years, God has, really been working with me and growing me in that area and showing me that I'm more than what my sister said,
That's
that
great.
I can do it. And that, with his help, of course, with God's help,
So
but
did you feel distant from God during those times?
yeah, I would say, yeah.
Did you feel like there was ever a way back?
Um,
If you were feeling distance.
I mean, I definitely felt distant from God. I was definitely depressed. I mean,
Yeah.
I hit rock bottom in college. I was really depressed for a long time, even as an adult,
Yeah.
and even the beginning of our marriage, I was really depressed. And if I don't spend time in God's Word, then I get depressed again.
So in other words, I think what I hear you saying, if you know how you have to repeat things, right, Jim? Isn't that the way we do it?
Yep. Yep. That's
Yeah.
it.
If I hear what she's saying is the way that she ended up getting close to God is to find what God had to say and look at those issues in her life that she was struggling with, and looking at the back of the index to see what might apply from historic words that are over 2,000 years old, that she could go back and she could, refamiliarize herself with a way of being. Does that sound about right, Jim?
I think so. And I think being faithful to others, being faithful to those that you do love and are constant with you is going to help you get closer to God as well. I do. And I think that like Dave was saying, the examples are right there in the Bible.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just that alone time away from God can truly affect you in negative ways. I remember back in 2009, my wife of 27 years said she was all out the door. And I was like, okay. And 3 months later, I was diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah.
And 3 months after that, I was having cancer treatments. And I lost all my hair. And but before that, Rob and I were out exercising, and I managed to have a bicycle accident. Broke 3 ribs on the left side and the clavicle. And you say to yourself, what is happening to me? And so somebody said, did you give up on God? And I said, no. I figured that I was right in the middle of God's hand, and I felt like I was trying to hang on to one of his fingers. And so the issue was not if God was giving up on me, the issue was whether I was going to give up on God. And there was just no way in the world I was prepared to do that, because my entire life has been associated with a church of one kind or another.
Yeah.
So, but,
Amen, brother.
And the great stuff is I'm fully recovered from cancer. I was told that I would have already had it 2 more times and that I would be on the way out at age 70. So, and then I found a wonderful woman to be my wife, and I am just so lucky. Yet I had to go through the storm. I had to go through what I like to call in the 23rd Psalm, I went through the valley of the shadow
Yep.
of death. Not
And
death.
that's what we're talking about. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so when I was saying, what's wrong with me? Am I no good? Is everybody else the same, or are people better than me, or whatever? I had an answer. God didn't make anything bad.
There you go.
And
There
that's
you
what I
go.
had to do.
And Dave, I think if we listen to the 23rd Psalm, we can fear no evil
Right.
if we keep God right
Right.
there.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with that tremendously. So we look like we're pretty well have run the gamut for tonight for 45 minutes. We like to honor the time that you spend with us, and we would love you to come back. If you want to contact us, running across the bottom of the screen, we want you to like and subscribe to our channel. And just
That's funny.
subscribe, and then if you would like to ask a question or express a concern or tell us about your life, you can write to us at d.mai@truecharactermatters.org. And that should be running across this. No, not running across the screen. Well, next week it'll run across the
Yes, it
screen.
will.
So you got to come back and we'll give it to you again. But it's d.maier at truecharactermatters.org. True Character Matters, all run together, .org. Okay, so we'll look forward to seeing you next week. We pray for a good, healthy week in front of you, and give God a try. He's out there. He's kind of waiting on you.
Love
Have a
you
good night.
guys.
Yeah, love you too. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.